for me ma obia a big salute at the bar and media TV. Sabre yam semran ye bebo and semno ne akuti enchemu.
Adosopa and now pay Yasaka Professor Godfred Bokpin or economist or your professor so Sikasemu to Chimo University of Ghana, Legon. Prof no pay da sipi no mrema wachi.
Yeah, ni no wachi when you tie for na pa chempom ti say.
You adom ye hoye, you so so hoye pa.
Yes adom.
When you say your dollar any cedi say your tea bi sa che mpempi no aya na dollar no ba dollar no mo na yo mia ye kon na ye su cedi sa say no cedi no mo asha say mia dollar no kon na ma ye say yetumi afi yesesere kakra anya bia ebinom kasa artificial ebinom so kasa reality ekoso kasa bibia antutwe a oman no aban no na mana kokobasa wo na wa bro kasa mu me pa chewo artificial so na mo kan say Donald Trump ne nhihye na ma say dollar no ekofam na ma sidi na gina na
yo pa chewo me da say ana say ye share Nia happens is here now. Yentimi can say artificial. There is some intentionality behind it. And I would explain the intentionality.
Okay.
Every two angles. One, fiscal policy. USHE 2025 budget. A buying present here this year now. Umukate expenditure significantly. So what that means is that from the fiscal side, no, government is not spending. So from the fiscal side, no, you put the economy on the hold. There is very little pressure when it comes to demand for foreign currency. When it comes to demand for foreign currency. And that is also playing out in terms of import activities. And demand for foreign currency, not only USD, say demand echo from because government is not spending. And after we share inflows of foreign exchange now, it is favorable to us right now. Favorable if you say gold export akosoro, cocoa export no so yenya bebre o kakra. And say you share remittances. So remittances is also picking up. And from the previous administration, who said they put in place, and we cannot take it away from them, the Ernest Addison and his people in terms of gold for reserves. And also the management of remittances, fintechs, so this current administration is also building on that. And to share from the inflows, maybe $1 every banner is favorable. And given that there's subdued expenditure and there's favorable effects, inflows now, government, especially the central bank, is now taking advantage of that favorable situation to drive down the rate. So this is a clear case of dragging it down. If it's purely as a result of transformation in our economy now, in the rate of appreciation, the strengthening of the cedi, it will be gradual. It will not be this sudden. So this suddenness tells you an intention behind it to drag it down. Now, can say artificial, where the justification could come from, can we sustain this recovery or strengthening for the foreseeable future? Then the answer will be no. And that is why in Kofo can say we need to exercise caution. You see the next 2 years, when government begins to spend optimally, remember, really they have not started anything. You check on the ground. There is no real expenditure going on right now. In fact, entity tender committees having been operationalized fully across ministries, department, agencies. So we have put the economy on some kind of a medically induced coma. It's USHA 2025 budget now. The Ministry of Finance, they are administering what we call shock therapy. Shock therapy meaning that they are shrinking expenditure. But we also know, government needs to spend to stimulate growth. So at some point, government will start spending. At some point, businesses will start spending. The pressure will begin to build. We will have to resume servicing our debt optimally and operate the economy optimally. And to say this time now, then the city will begin to feel the pressure. So now the question is, do you take advantage of this favorable situation because you have improved cash flows, foreign exchange, subdued expenditure, low import uptake to drag down the rate, or you rather build your reserves for the next 10, 15 years and assure market players them never again in the next 2 decades or so will the city depreciate the way it has happened before. So it's a question of the trade-off. And ultimately, the city needs strengthen abnormally is not good for the economy. And that is where I think we should take our minds to. Who they should be a chromo
yes.
Who import to BBA? Nibonu or form says I'll be produce. When we say see the way strengthen, the call is on importers of goods to reduce their prices.
Yeah.
Now, the question we need to ask ourselves is, are we comfortable to promote import-dependent economy, or we want to strengthen local production capacity? So if the goal is to promote import-dependent, then let's continue on that path, but that is not sustainable. From November 2023, inflation on locally produced items rose higher than imported inflation, which means to say, we are entrepreneur, now per se, who started business, now producing the beer, and far better sell the import rather than producing. Once we are importing, we actually exporting jobs to those countries and importing unemployment into our country. So it's about the right balance. And I believe, with what has happened so far, the central bank and the government probably will slow down on dragging down the rate so that we can build reserves for the future. I think that is the way we should go.
Prof, Yansha, what can send him? Send me and son, and me baby son of a what can be said? Send your dollar, cedi no, cost no dollar number from no. One more I can say artificial no. Say, is this sustainable? And I see no. We are not saying no hope.
Yes.
Don't you know? See, and yes, sustainable, don't you?
So who person judge sustainability who say whether the economy is operating at full capacity, government servicing their debt, paying contractors, spending optimally to promote growth. Now, if all these things are in place, now that the city is still strengthening now, and when you can say yes, it means that the strengthening is anchored by the fundamentals of the economy. Who share the economy, especially if you take this government. Since this government came, what transformative effect have we seen from the real sector of the economy? In terms of industrialization, manufacturing, the answer is no. I commend the president that they are launching programs and policies, Ejumera, Akukonketenkete, and the rest of them. At this stage, it's policy launching. The real impact is yet to be felt on the ground. So we cannot say the strengthening is as a result of fundamental shifts or structural shifts in the economy, which is driving the strengthening of the currency. And whether we like it or not, from the beginning of this year to date, Bank of Ghana has injected dollars into the economy in excess of the absorption capacity of the economy in terms of FX utilization. That is the fact. Okay, so you cannot continue on that path. And I think so. You also want to look at it, sir. If the city strengthened on this path sustainably, what would that mean for our export competitiveness and export diversification? What would that mean for tourist spenders who come to Ghana because it will become expensive and all of that? If I look at Bank of Ghana's own reports, we don't have significant misalignment on the real effective exchange rate. So it seems to me, sir, Bank of Ghana has an idea of where they want the exchange rate to be so that it will help in fast tracking, in bringing down inflation to the band that they are targeting for this year. So if you are pushing it from the point of view of exchange rate pass through, then you should know the implication of that for the competitiveness of your domestic production capacity. So far, an objective analysis of the situation tells us to say our economy's supply capacity is severely constrained. If that is the case, then you rather need to go for what we call supply-oriented policies that eases the restrictions on the growth drivers of the economy so that local businesses can produce at cheaper rates compared to importing. Otherwise, the substitution effect will be difficult for us to manage if this trend continues. And I think we don't have sufficient reserves to sustain the recovery for the foreseeable future. Okay, finally, Maminka Asimbintel. Hello. Bank of Ghana should be explaining to us how their goal for reserves and the gold board and all that is going on is promoting responsible mining. Are they buying the gold for responsible artisanal small-scale miners, or gold board and all that is going on is promoting responsible gold reserves? We cannot destroy our future just to sustain the city. Because if we continue on this path with the destruction to our environment, water bodies and the rest of them, 8 years, 10 years from now, we will be weeping. There is no joy in that. We need to move gradually from environmentally destructive growth model to a more greener, sustainable, so that we turn this existential threat to existential opportunity. I feel for Ghana. In the next 8 to 10 years, you watch and see where Ghana will be. If we continue on this destructive growth model of destroying our environment in the name of gold and the rest of them, yes, of course, it is offering stability to the currency. Do you know the trade-off? Have we calculated the environmental impact and the rest of them? So we need to take a holistic look. It's not about rejoicing today. What happens in the future and the rest of them? I think that is a concern. Sometimes the problem is that we are a bit more short-term in thinking. This is our problem. So, but what the market needs is sustainability for long. Okay, so that people can plan for long. This is second quarter. If you introduce these disruptions, it's not really good for planning and the rest of them. Politically, it may be good to say we have checked the box, but is it good optimally for the economy in terms of export, in terms of competitiveness of your local productive capacity and all of that? So I think those are the things that we need to take a critical look.
Prof, what you say that's now what you back to say you better take advantage of the previous administration and maybe 2 years one district, one factory, one D, one F. Would you say maybe I was saying it's an opportune time for us to take advantage of this idea near Nanka. Yet to me, as Shesa, Mokina, that you have Bawumia, said the local production, et to me, and also importation about Fomana.
Yes, I agree. Previous government or more initiatives now they are better also. Meanwhile, the state would have made considerable investments in those areas. And my advice, and it's just an advice, they don't need to take it. My advice would be that they should take a critical look at the economic development instruments like 1D, 1F, planting for food and jobs. Let's analyze it carefully. Let's see where the strengths are, where the weaknesses are, so we can build on the strengths and overcome the weaknesses, take advantage of the opportunities, reinforce the threats from it and the rest of them, instead of going to start things all over again and all of that. Of course, we've made some progress in the area of one district, one factory. I have looked at it and the rest of them. In fact, if you look at the supply chain mechanism,